Hey everybody, Michael here with Burke's Nature, doing another virtual lesson. I hope you're all happy, healthy, and safe during this COVID time. Today's program is going to be called the Enviroscape. I'm going to teach you what a watershed is. So, a watershed is an area of land where all the rain that falls from the sky drains to the same place. This is called the Enviroscape. It is a model of a watershed. Here we have some factories, we have a farm, we have a neighborhood, construction site, a mountain, some roads. And what we're going to do is we're going to pollute this, and then we're going to make it rain. And what you're visually going to see is how when it rains in a watershed, all the pollution that gets picked up by the rain travels through where you live and ends up at a water source. So if we're to pollute right here, when it rains, that pollution is going to come here. If it rains here, all the pollution will end up being here. Picture a mountain. So a mountain can be used to visualize what a watershed is. If it rains on top of this mountain, half of the water goes one way, half of the water goes the other way. Each of those could be its own watershed. Now on this one, all the water that falls, all the rain that falls will end up in this area. So, like I said a moment ago, we are going to take our model of a watershed and we are going to pollute it. Now, we're going to pollute it with food items, things like chocolate sprinkles, cocoa powder, and we're going to pretend that they are pollution. Now, what is pollution? So, pollution is basically something that makes something else dirty. So, we can have land pollution, we can have water pollution, we can have air pollution, all different types of pollution. For this demonstration, we're going to talk specifically about water pollution. Not that air pollution isn't important or any type of other pollution isn't important, but this is going to focus on water, so things that pollute our water. And the thing about water is essential for us to live. So water is what's considered a finite resource. So there's a limited amount of water on this planet. Now there's a lot of it, so we probably aren't going to run out, but we cannot make new water. If I were to break my cell phone, I could call up my cell phone company and I could buy a new cell phone. If we make all the water on the planet dirty, we can't just call somebody up and ask them to make new water. So as long as we keep the water clean enough that we can continually clean it, we'll be all right. So pollution, however, can destroy water. What do you think the number one water pollutant is in Pennsylvania? I live in Berks County. What do you think the number one water pollutant is for Berks County or Pennsylvania? Do you think it's gasoline? Do you think it's oil? Do you think it's trash and litter? What do you think the number one water pollutant is? Contrary to what most people will believe, it's actually dirt. Dirt or soil is the number one pollutant. Dirt in itself is not bad for a creek. If you've ever gone for a walk in a creek or a stream, you know that there's dirt on the bottom. The reason dirt is so bad is because of us humans. We like to build things like nature centers, schools, apartments, businesses. And when we do that, when we build things like that, or when we build roads, we are disturbing a lot of the ground, and all of that extra dirt is carrying into the water. So it clouds the water, it can affect the wildlife in the water. There's a lot of things that dirt can do, not to mention when it rains, if the rain picks up dirt, it picks up everything that's in the dirt. So any oil that is spilled, gas that is spilled, trash on the ground. So it's not just the dirt, but all the things in the dirt that also can cause problems. So what I have here is cocoa powder, and we're going to pretend that the cocoa powder is dirt or soil. Now, what I'm going to do is put it wherever I see brown on my board. So on my model, wherever there's brown, I'm going to put a little bit of soil. And when we make it rain, we're going to demonstrate what happens with the soil. Now, if you notice over here, we've not made it rain yet, but there's already dirt in the water. And this is something that people at home can do to actually help protect the environment. If you notice, there's no trees, grass, or shrub along the water's edge. So when it rains, when the river's flowing, wind, lots of different things can add water into, or add soil into the water without it even raining. So something at home that you can do is, if you live by a creek, or you could work with an organization to help plant trees along the creek. And those trees have roots, and those roots will actually dig into the dirt, and they will help not only absorb water that has pollution in it, but they also act like fingers, and they hold the soil into place. So if we were to have trees and grasses along that stream bank, the dirt wouldn't be running into the water as much. That is called a riparian zone, a riparian buffer. We at Berks Nature every year plant hundreds, if not thousands, of trees, and most of them are along creeks, streams, and rivers to prevent that from happening and to protect the creek. So moving on, I have some cherry drink mix here that I got, and what we're going to do is we're going to pretend that this is all different types of chemicals. We're going to pretend that this is the oil leaking from a car. We're going to pretend that it's the antifreeze leaking out of the car. We're going to pretend that it's the grease from your kitchen that you hopefully never do this but dumped out on the ground. We're going to pretend that it's fertilizer, something that helps plants grow. We're going to pretend that it's a pesticide or a herbicide, something that, you know, kills insects or kills weeds that we don't want. So I'm going to put a little on the farm, and that is going to represent our fertilizer, our pesticides, and our herbicides, our bug spray for plants, weed killer, and plant food. I'm going to put a little over here from the construction site, some chemicals spilled. We're going to put a little on the road, so that's oil. We're going to put a little here, and that could be the antifreeze. Here we have a factory that might be dumping something toxic. So the red is going to represent any type of chemical that you could think of, and there's millions of chemicals that this could possibly be. So we have our model of our watershed. We have now polluted it with soil and chemicals. Now I have some oatmeal. What do we think the oatmeal could represent? What does it look like? So lots of different things. But we're going to pretend that it's trash or litter, specifically plastic. The thing about plastics is, for our lifetimes, they never go away. If I'm driving through the woods and I throw a banana peel, that is bad, that is littering, but that banana peel will at least become dirt at some point. If I were to drive through the woods and throw my one-use water bottle out the window, that one-use water bottle will never become dirt. It's just going to break down into smaller and smaller pieces of plastic and eventually become what's called a microplastic. Microplastics are a huge problem for the earth. If you've ever heard of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, there's an area that my last research said was 2 times the size of Texas, and it's nothing but floating trash in the ocean. And the thing about microplastics, or plastics in the oceans, is they become really small and then animals ingest them. So let's pretend that under the Great Pacific Garbage Patch there's a city, and all of these little marine organisms, animals that live in the ocean, live in this city. So let's pretend that the smallest organism, let's say a piece of plankton, is living in this water filled with pollution, filled with plastic. It's ingesting plastic as it breathes, absorbing it, and microplastics are becoming part of its body. So then let's say another organism who happens to be its predator comes along and eats that little piece of plankton. So now that fish or organism has twice as much pollution or plastic in its body. So now a bigger fish comes along and eats that animal. Now that fish has 3 times as much pollution in its body, and it works its way up the food chain until at some point somebody catches a fish out of the ocean, they take it home, they go to eat it, and it's actually got plastic infused into its body. This is something that does happen around the world because of how much plastic specifically is in the ocean, not to mention all the other types of pollution. Now, for the soil, we put it where there was brown. For the chemicals, we put them on different spots in the land. For litter, there is no rhyme or reason. There is no special place for litter. Litter is everywhere. So we're just gonna dump it and let it fall where it may. So we have our model of our watershed, the area of land where all the rain drains to one place. We have now polluted it with dirt, chemicals, and plastic bottles and trash. So our very last pollutant, and this is not the last pollutant in the real world, just for this demonstration, is going to be chocolate sprinkles. Now, of all types of pollution, what do you think chocolate sprinkles represent? Take a second and think about it. So, what did you come up with? What did you guess? So, I'm hoping you guessed poop. In science, we call that scat, S-C-A-T. Now, I highly doubt that your family members run around pooping on people's lawns, so we're not going to pretend that it's human poop. We are going to pretend that it is dog poop. Dog poop is a real problem for the world. So why do we clean up after our dogs, but yet maybe we're not chasing a wolf around the woods picking up their poop? So think about this. In the woods, there's no houses, there's no roads, there's no schools. There's none of these things called impervious surfaces. Now, impervious surfaces is when water can't go through it. So if I took this cup and I put a piece of tin foil over the top, water could not get through to the cup. So that means it's impervious. If I put a sponge on top of here and put it under the sink, water would go through the sponge into the cup. So think of the woods as like a sponge. There's all of these pervious surfaces. When it rains, the rain falls down, it gets soaked up into the ground, and the poop or scat will eventually become dirt. In a neighborhood where we live, we have all of these impervious surfaces. So when you take your dog for a walk, or you let him out, even in your own backyard, if you don't pick up after the dog. In our yards, we have really short grass, and then our roads, our roofs, and all of these hard surfaces don't allow the water to soak through. So what ends up happening is you take your dog for a walk or you let them outside, you don't pick up their scat or their poop. The next time it rains, what happens is rather than soaking into the ground, all of that rain gets pulled together. And if you've ever been out during a rainstorm and you've seen a stream of water going down the side of the street, so all that water pools, and what happens is instead of soaking up, it picks up everything that's on your lawn or your sidewalk or wherever, and it flushes all of that stuff down to the sewer drain. So if you've ever walking down the side of the road, there's a drain on the side where all the rain goes. So what happens is all of that poop and other stuff that we have here, so not just scat, it could be the chemicals, the dirt, the litter, all of that gets picked up and it gets pushed down to the storm drain. And the thing about storm drains is most people think that the water that goes down there actually gets cleaned, which is not true. So when you flush your toilet, your poop goes to, and I'm not joking, a poop factory. There is a place whose sole job is to take your toilet water and clean out all of the bad stuff. A lot of people think that when it rains, the water that goes down the drain also goes to that plant, and it doesn't. Instead, it goes to the nearest creek. So not picking up after your dog or leaving any of these chemicals or trash in your front yard, your backyard, or anywhere, it's not going to get cleaned. It's going to go to the nearest river. And we don't want pollution going into the nearest river. So it goes to the nearest river instead of the factory. So I'm going to put some cow poop down, and let's put some dog poop in the neighborhood. That is a lot of dog poop. So we have our model of our watershed. We have now polluted it with dirt, chemicals, trash, and dog and cow poop. So as you can see, already in the water we have some dirt, some stuff, and there's lots of ways that that can be put in there. But the real fun starts with the rain. So now we have all this stuff all over our land. Now it's going to rain. So let's see what happens when it rains. I'm going to use this spray bottle as my rain. So let's pretend that it's raining. So we're going to start with a nice little summer's rain, nothing too heavy, nothing too hard. So here, we have our nice little rain. And as you can see, once it rains, everything that was on the land starts to end up in the water. So now we had our nice clean water, we've had a little bit of rain, and everything is starting to go to the big river. Now we're gonna do a thunderstorm. So now I'm really gonna make it rain, really gonna squirt some water on here. So now that we've had our thunderstorm, now look at our clean, beautiful water. Now, the question is, why does this matter? So we can only go about 3 to 5 days without water. We need it to survive. And do any of you drink from a pond, a creek, a river, a stream? So who out there watching this video thinks that they would never, ever, ever drink from something like that? And the problem is, everybody does. So whether you have a well, city water, whether you only drink bottled water from the store, no matter what you drink, or I only drink soda. The number one ingredient in soda is water. I only drink orange juice. They use water to grow those oranges. You cannot get away from this. If your water comes out of your faucet, it probably comes from a well, which is an underground stream. It might come from a pond or a lake by your house. It comes from a river. Some way, somehow, no matter what you're drinking, it gets water from a river, creek, stream, or aquifer, which is underground water. Which means if we were to pollute all of our water, we would have nothing to drink, or pollute all of our land, we would have nothing to drink, because the next time it rains, all of that pollution is going directly into the water. Now, I don't want everybody out there watching this to be scared. This is not necessarily what's happening. This is a doom and gloom, worst case scenario. If everybody on the planet just stopped caring, started littering and polluting, this is what we'd end up with. And I personally, I don't want to drink polluted water. So, what are some things that you can do at home to either help prevent this or help clean it? So, you can stop littering. You cannot let, your little brother or sister throw a cheeseburger wrapper out of the window. If you take your dog for a walk, yeah, it may be gross to pick it up, but by picking it up, you're preventing it from going in here. Could you imagine? So think about it. All the water that pools on here goes to here, but then this water goes somewhere else. So if we were to pretend it's Berks County where I live, all of this water would drain to the Schuylkill River to the Delaware to the ocean. So if you were to not pick up after your dog, the next time you go to the beach, you literally might turn around and see it in the water next to you because you didn't pick it up here and it made its way all the way to the ocean. You can help plant trees. Trees are amazing, like I said earlier. Not only do they help hold the soil, but the roots soak up water, and trees have an amazing ability to soak up dirty water and then transpire clean water, trapping the pollution in the tree. So those are some things that you can do to help prevent pollution. Prevention is a lot easier than repairing. So if we were to take this water to a water treatment plant, they may not be able to get out all of the chemicals and things like that. So by preventing pollution from getting in the water, we make water easier to clean, which in turn makes it cheaper and more accessible to everybody. Because remember, like I said earlier, we can't create new water. If we make it this dirty, I'm going to pull the plug. So if we make it this dirty, we may not be able to clean it. And I don't know about you, but I would not want to drink that. I'd much prefer the beautiful, clear water that we originally had. So thank you for joining me for today's lesson. Keep in mind, this was a very compact, shortened version of this lesson. Normally this takes about an hour to an hour and a half to do. So once all of these restrictions are lifted, join us for one of our programs, and hopefully you'll come get to see the entire program start to finish instead of the shortened version. Stay happy, stay healthy, enjoy being outside right now, and I look forward to seeing you at one of our future programs. Have a wonderful day.